Hi, everyone. I am Monica Rico. Welcome back to Will I Ever Be Happy? Finding Joy Amidst Depression and Anxiety. And today we have a special guest all the way from down under. Her name is Tanya Davies, and she is the Success Flow Coach, which is a high-performing strategic thinker, coach, speaker, therapist, consultant. She's on a mission to help individuals better understand the future of productivity and well-being through what she calls slow leadership movement. So without further ado, please welcome Tanya Davies. How are you? Thank you for being here.
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Monica. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Of course. So will you go ahead and do us a favor of introducing yourself and tell us a little bit more about your background?
Yes, absolutely. As you said, I do a lot of things. I'm a polymath. I'm all over the place. But my specialty really is, look, I've come from the corporate world, a corporate world that led me to burnout. On multiple occasions, I've had burnout in my life, so I'm very experienced in burnout, but also in the recovery from burnout. So yeah, as I've grown up over the years, I've been recovering as a perfectionist and high achiever and high performer. And, they're the kind of things that, self-inflicted, that we push ourselves to the brink. And it probably wasn't until, I don't know, my 30s, I just had my kids, and I started to ask that question that I'm sure many of your viewers are probably going to be asking. Is this all there is? Is this it? Is this roller coaster of getting up every day, working hard for other people, killing myself, my children not knowing who I am, and collapsing on the couch at night to try and escape from the world? Is this it? Didn't matter how much you earn or whatever accolades come through. That's just all, that's just all ego driven. And I was very ego driven at that time in my life. And I finally realized, after medical concerns and my husband having a major accident, that there is more, a lot more. And so I've basically changed careers. I did a complete flip, career transition, and I grew up and I had a master's in marketing. And so I had been traveling the world and working in corporate in the marketing space, but it didn't align with my values. I also had a degree in business management. So I was doing lots of different things for lots of different people in that space. But it was a case of, I remember I was in Toronto on a business trip for 2 weeks. And I was trying to manage the team back in Australia during the night, and then have a quick shower, get up and go and join the trade party that I was with, and try and maintain decorum, having not slept, for 2 weeks pretty much. Coming home to Australia, long haul flights, getting sick, and then looking at my children and wondering, does this child even know who I am anymore? And so there was a huge values clash that was going on between what I was doing every day that I thought was what I was meant to be doing, right? As a woman, we're told independence, you go out, you get the degrees, you get the job, etc. And it just just came crashing down. And, when I say I was really doing it, I bought my first house at 22.
Wow.
Bought my second one at 25, and I kept doing what I had to do. Always paid cash for my car, these kind of things. I paid up front for my all of my tertiary education, so I never had like a university debt, so to speak.
Oh wow!
And
I don't know what that's like. How is that like?
Tiring. There were very long 80-hour weeks, but I was also in sales and marketing at the same time as studying. So I was seriously burning the candle at both ends, and it caught up with me. And as most of my clients who come and see me today, it's the physical symptoms that start first. It's the autoimmune disease. It's the gastro issues. It's IBS. It's headaches, tension, pain, teeth grinding. There's so much. They're all symptoms of your life has gone too far in one direction. And yes, we can medically treat them. And I absolutely work in teams with the medical team, specifically with my clients. But there comes to a point where you realize, oh boy, I actually have to look at the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual components of how I got here. And that is what I specialize with my clients now, is I call it the strategic slowdown. And I had a beautiful client in my chair yesterday, and he was telling me, he's the CEO of a major company, and he was saying, the work we've done together, a year ago, he wouldn't have known himself as he is today. his perspective on life has changed so much that he can hold multiple perspectives all at once. And he can see that the depression and the anxiety that he was stuck in was just a mask. It was a mask for so many other things. And so the only way we can work to shift this stuff is if we actually strategically slow down parts of our life to do the work we need to do. We can't do it at the same pace that we run the rest of our lives out. And people are like, oh, but I can't slow down. I couldn't possibly. But there's so many ego statements based in that whole I can't slow down, that is something that needs to be looked at. So if you ever find yourself saying things along the lines of, I couldn't possibly, not me, my life's just too busy, that is an absolute red flag. Does that give you a little bit of an idea of what I'm actually doing, I guess, in this slow leadership movement? I'm actually working with leaders in many different organizations across many different spectrums and sectors that you wouldn't expect them to be calling on someone like myself until they themselves have had that lived experience of depression, anxiety, burnout, chronic stress, and masking it with, oh, that's just the way it is. That's what the role demands of me.
So you work with you work with business owners, CEOs, and
working mums. Yes, working mums is one of my major components, but working dads too, and also people that find themselves moving through the ranks of their career. And I wish it happened to me earlier, but realizing even in their 20s, hang on a minute, this is not potentially a path I want to go down. I want to break that cycle. And that for me is such a blessing to see those people coming at such a young age to go, no, actually, I know I've started, I've got maybe my first degree. Maybe this is not what I intended. You know, maybe my soul calling is something completely different. And I'm not just going to get on that hamster wheel of life and just, you know, get the better car, get the better house, et cetera, et cetera. Don't get me wrong. I like luxury. I do. I deserve it. So does everybody else. But at the same time, at what cost?
What cost? Yeah, I like that. The hamster wheel of life. And that's, I mean, I don't know how it is in Australia, but that's definitely how most Americans, I would venture to guess, is exactly how we live. You know, you go to school, you get, you know, you go to college, you get your degree. Too bad if you don't like what you picked it. You're going to be paying for that the rest of your life. So learn to love it. And if you don't love it, who cares? Show up every single day and stay overtime if possible, because, you know, Social Security is not guaranteed and all this stuff. So
honestly, I think one of the only major differences I've probably seen culturally wise, because I work with people all over the world, is that in Australia, we're actually not really that scared to take our holiday or vacation time. You know, we get like 4 weeks generally a year. But certainly from the people in North America that I've spoken with, it's absolutely taboo to be taking those days. And that is just soul crushing to hear that from people. How can you possibly, with all the science we have now, backing the fact that you need rest and recovery time? I mean, there is a great study out there from Microsoft who showed that executives, if we look at a 60-minute block, 45 minutes is the maximum time the brain could sustain at 100% what it needs to be doing. If you give them a 15-minute break at the end of that, they can return back to 100% recovery time within that 15-minute break. But how many meetings do you go to that are back to back to back to back with no recovery time other than running between? Other than running between, and that's just not okay for the brain. So to think from an organizational perspective that you're expecting your people to be productive and you're not giving the brain enough time for them to recoup after a meeting, think about that. Like, this is the leading edge of research and we're not listening to it. Now you think about that over an entire year and not taking any kind of vacation time or even time for yourself to stop and think. Now we have a massive problem. And that's the people I'm seeing in my office, those ones that are finally brave enough to go, I'm not willing to handle the shame, the guilt, the depression, the anxiety any longer. I shouldn't.
Right, because it's not just one feeling. That one kind of lassos in all the other ones that you just mentioned. for the most part.
Absolutely. I think if you're facing that level of depression, you've got to a place of hopelessness. And one of the messages that I really want people to understand, especially from somebody who's come from, a family of lived experience of suicide in the family, to be able to say, there is always someone that is willing to listen. And there will be always someone that can help you help yourself. And if people understood the simplicity of that message, it might not be your mum, it might not be your dad, it might not be your best friend, but it may be that next person. So keep asking, be vulnerable and brave enough to just keep asking for help until you get the right person to listen for you. And it doesn't have to take 20 years to overcome depression. We work with clients in, less than 3 months, and we're helping them get back on their feet.
Wow, 3 minutes. That's record time.
3 months, less than 3 months, not 3 minutes. But wish it was 3 minutes. I'm sure it is for some people. But I think the clear differentiation here is something that I was having this conversation with my daughter the other day, because I noticed she was throwing around the word depression a bit.
Oh,
and I thought, okay, now she's only 12. And I sat down with her and I said, sweetheart, let's have a chat about depression and anxiety. And I said, I need you to understand that it's thoughts and behaviors. It's not something about your personality. I said, so every single person on this planet does depressive thoughts and anxious thoughts somewhere in their life. Some every single day, multiple times. Some it might hit them at, when grief strikes. There might be that component of depression which is required for recovery. But the clear difference here is, do not ever make depression or anxiety part of your personality. Let's separate the two, because if we can separate the two, we can observe the thoughts and the depression and the anxiety. We can observe that and we can work to heal it. When we start bringing on as our personality, then there's shame and so many other punishments that we, lack of forgiveness that we put on ourselves. How could we possibly see our way through that? It's all consuming. So one of the first things I do with people is teach them how to separate themselves from the behaviors and the thoughts, because that is a very powerful position to be in. Does that make sense? And that's what I was talking to my 12-year-old about, was this clear. I'm happy with you to say, oh, I was having depressive thoughts today. Great, we can work with that. But the moment you say, I'm depressed, we now have a problem. Now we're dealing with you and your personality, and that is not part of your personality. That is a learned behavior that has come from somewhere. That is learned thoughts and learned emotions that has come from here. You weren't born with that. Is not a part of your personality. So we can equally unlearn it. And that is something I think if people are going to take anything away from today, it is not who you are. It is just something you're doing right now.
Oh, very deep, very profound. I love that. So learn to separate, or try to figure out how to separate your feelings of depression from your personality, from who you are.
Yeah. One of the very simple techniques I teach people is, and it's been around for thousands and thousands of years, is start to observe your thoughts, and let's start with some very innocent ones. For example, you've got a mug of, let's say you've got a mug of tea or coffee in front of you. Start being very mindful about that mug and start to observe all of the elements of that mug, and then observe yourself observing that mug. Yeah, exactly. Because when you start to do that, you learn that you can separate yourself and move back away from your own thoughts. Because then you start to realize, hang on a minute, isn't it really fascinating that I can actually now start to observe the nature of my thoughts? And so you can have a thought such as, I don't want to be here anymore. And you can go, excellent, that's a great thought to start with. Now let's separate that from you and let's look at that thought, because do you realize that the very fact that you can observe it means that you can change it? That is powerful for people to be able to all of a sudden go, hang on a minute, so that's not who I am. No, that's not who you are. It's just a thought you happen to have. I could think that one day my child is being a complete ratbag. The next day I could think my child is a complete beautiful angel. I'm not attached to the story of either of those. So let's let go of the story and all of the emotion, because at the end of the day, the emotions are the things that keep people stuck. And that is one of the areas that, in terms of the strategic slowdown that I work with people, we drain the emotions from all of those things in their life that's hooking them in. You know, from that
Okay.
time they might have stolen an eraser from their best friend when they were 3. You know, these things, these emotions that keep compounding during their life, they've learnt them from somewhere. There's been an instance either from parenting or, you know, culture where we've learnt all this stuff and all these things that we can let go of. It's not you. There's nothing wrong with you.
So try to look at things in your life objectively, almost like a third person.
Yeah, mindfulness. Yeah, yeah,
Love that.
absolutely. Yeah.
And
I mean,
so
as a yeah, go.
No, please finish your thought. Please.
I was just about to say, so my background also is I was a clinical hypnotherapist, psychotherapist, and many other things now, meditation teacher. One of the things that I certainly teach people who are in the busy part is to go, ask yourself, what is the purpose of avoiding stillness?
Okay.
Because you will
That's
have
a great question.
you will have a positive gain. We call it secondary gain in my world, but a positive gain for you to keep yourself so distracted and so busy. It's not a have to, you know, all your kids' curricular activities and all your work and your boss, etc. You allow that in your world because of the boundaries you refuse to set. And those boundaries are all on you. Yes, and you can actually be brave enough once you let go of all of your background and your baggage and all the crap, excuse my language, that's keeping you stuck. Once you've let go of all of that, you'll find it so much easier to set stronger boundaries. And really that will make you feel so more fulfilled in your world. And sometimes those boundaries will require shedding toxic people from your world. I've had to let go of a lot of friendships over the years. I've had to let go of a lot of jobs over the years. That once I realized, certainly, you know, once my soul had lit up and gone, this is not my direction, it was time to shed that stuff. And so, yeah, look, one of those things that I now get to really enjoy doing with my clients is helping them have their own epiphanies in that space. And I think, you know, you can lead a horse to water. I was saying that to a client yesterday, but I'm not going to dunk your head in it. So
I use that a lot
yes.
too. Not in this
Yeah.
context in particular, but just in other ones.
Yeah,
I love that.
absolutely.
Saying. So, okay. So I was going to ask you to teach us a technique. I mean, you talked about so many different ways that we can shift and you know, find relief. Is there a specific way, like something in particular that we can do to arrive to those?
Yep. And it can take like 60 seconds of your day. And I say that because I teach my clients this, and you can use this, but you know, if you're feeling that sensation of a panic attack, you know, there's always that sensation of a panic attack as it starts to build, etc. You can use this. You can use this between meetings. This is a way all of a sudden to get us out of fight or flight mode instantly. This is working with our autonomic nervous system. It needs to take us out of our sympathetic to our parasympathetic. It's like a light switch. You can't put the light switch halfway in between. It's either on or it's off. So we need to get you to rest and digest mode. That's the parasympathetic part. And to do that, we use our breath and our eyes to click like this. Pretty much, it's super simple. So I'd like your viewers to basically look forward and find a spot right in front of them, just slightly above eye level, almost like they're looking at their eyebrows just slightly. And I focus in on that spot, incredibly focus in on that spot. And you might even find that things around that spot start to get slightly blurry. That's perfect. That's exactly the way it needs to be. Now, while you're doing that, focus on your breath. Allow your breath to move from what is potentially chest breathing down to your stomach. Allow your belly button to blow up like a balloon when you breathe in. Most of us in this day and age like to suck our gut in, but that's really unhealthy for us.
Really?
So as we're breathing, yeah, absolutely. As we're breathing in
I've been
through our
breathing
nose.
wrong my whole life.
And again, it's just something we've role modeled, because as babies, if you watch a baby, their beautiful little bellies, they work exactly the way they need to when they're breathing. So we blow up that breath, we maintain that eyes on that spot. And as we're doing that, we bring our awareness with our eyes all the way out into our peripheral vision. And the moment we start to engage our peripheral vision, is the moment the autonomic nervous system goes, okay, it's safe to relax now. It is that trigger, it's that light switch. And the longer we can stay in a position where we're engaging our peripheral vision, the longer we give our nervous system a chance to just rest.
I did
And that's
not
where our
know
stomach
this.
finally goes, now I can start digesting, which is why, interestingly, on that note, I find a lot of busy people, working mums, stay-at-home mums, CEOs, everyone in between, they seem to be coming up with lots of gastrointestinal issues, IBS, the whole lot. Why? Because we're always in fight or flight mode, not allowing the food in our body to digest, and it just sits there putrefying. And so, you know, it's not a surprise that we've got all these problems going on in our bodies now. I think I've put you into shock now, haven't I?
Yeah, it's crazy how everything is so connected.
Yes.
Everything is so connected. And, you know, growing up, I can't speak for everybody else, but growing up, I never heard about mindfulness, or, you know, if I did, it was something, you know, in Shangri-La that Gandhi did, or that, you know,
yes. Yep. Gotcha.
And it was just, you know, the Buddha or whatever. And it was just never something that called to my attention. And now that it did, you know, some time back, and I've been so interested in it. It's like, wow, yeah, the body and the mind and the spirit are just intertwined. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because I'm also an Ayurvedic nutrition practitioner as well. And so I very much talk to my clients about making sure they're aware of what they're putting into their body in many different ways. So what are they putting into their ears? What are they listening to? How many crime programs are they listening to? You know, just drama that they're listening to. What are they seeing through their eyes? Even what are they smelling? What are they eating? Because these are all highly connected with their senses through to their digestion. And, you know, what you're putting into your stomach is highly linked to depression. So there's so many research papers out there now that are delving into the concept of the microbiome of the stomach and depression and the link. It is incredibly important that we be very aware of what's going into all of our senses, not just what we're eating, but what are you watching constantly? Are you scrolling endlessly through Facebook? And let me assure you, all of your devices that you're on, which are fantastic, they're not going to go anywhere. But if you're on them 24/7, you're always in fight or flight mode. Your nervous system will never allow you to move to that calm, rest, and digest. So we have to actively, like we would go for a run or do sit-ups or push-ups, we have to actively switch our autonomic nervous system to go, I'm giving you that time now. I'm putting 60 seconds aside to rest. But rarely do we allow ourselves that. That's all it takes. It's a start. It's an absolute start. Obviously, for some of us that do this kind of work, I have the pleasure of being able to go in and out of trance all day and rest with my clients because I'm leading them in that very caring and nurturing space that they need. I hold that space for them to heal. And, you know, I'm not doing anything to them. And that's the misconception, I think, of, you know, hypnotherapy. I was a clinical hypnotherapist. There is no mind control, although those military would have weaponized clinical hypnotherapy a long time ago. There is, you know, all that nonsense around it is one of the most healing modalities you could possibly imagine.
Wow. And so the thought of hypnotherapy, the way that we all think of it, as in you're getting sleepy and all that, is not accurate.
Oh, you can get sleepy, no worries. But for example, I had a 9-year-old that I was working on once, and he was so highly anxious, all he could do was walk around my room in circles. And I used it. He's already in trance. It's not a productive trance, but he's already in trance. And he's created that for himself. And on average, we move in and out of, you know, trance or hypnosis every 4 minutes every day. We daydream.
Really?
We drive to work and wonder how many red lights there were. There's moments. Yeah.
So we're sort of in a trance on our way to work every day, huh? Well, I work from home, so thankfully I don't have much to travel.
If you're doing anxious thoughts all day long, you are in trance. It's just not productive.
Right.
You are literally hypnotizing yourself with your own belief systems.
Oh, wow. So you're working against your own system, and you're
you're convincing yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, it affects your gut, and it affects so many other physical aspects of your life.
Yes, absolutely. Like, and it's some innocent symptoms too. Like you'll see people that bite their nails, just as a very quick example, or pick their skin. this is, behind all of this is some anxious thinking, anxious feelings. It's the body's way of trying to diffuse all these feelings that are going on. And so our body's very smart at giving us signals, but if we ignore the signals, it sort of ramps it up for us in some very unpleasant ways a lot of the time, autoimmune diseases, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a pathway.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, it's modern medicine. I was discussing with somebody else, all they do is try to fix a problem after it's developed, but they don't, I mean, for the most part, they don't, a medical doctor won't say, let's get to the root of this and let's find out why it's happening so that you can get off the meds or get off the,
Yeah, I would highly suggest that anyone that's going through depression or anxiety seek out an integrative practitioner to help them, a medical doctor that is integrative and open to the concept of looking for that root cause. I personally have an integrative GP here in Australia who's brilliant at being able to look and investigate in a holistic perspective what's going on. She even sends me clients because at the same time we have to work as a team, because that medical care is there for acute situations, which is so crucial in this day and age. And I would want that. The amount of times I've ended up in hospital for crazy things, we need that. So I'm absolutely not one of those people who would go, it's us or them. No, I work as in that holistic environment with people so that we can all collectively rise and understand that people have hope, they have options, and it's always not necessarily medication.
Exactly. I mean, like you said, there's a place for both things. One, one can stop the bleeding, but, unless you find out why you're bleeding, you're going to keep bleeding. So both
exactly. Yes.
sides are
that's a great analogy. Yeah.
Great. And do you have a free gift for the?
Yeah, absolutely. I offer free consultation calls for 45 minutes for people that are going, this is curious, this strategic slowdown. What is she talking about? And like I said, I work with people all over the world, online or even in the clinic that I'm in here. So yeah, we can absolutely share through whatever means the details of getting onto those. But also, next month I've got an ebook coming out on the strategic slowdown and what it really means in more depth. I've got a retreat coming up at the end of August. I've turned out my signature program, the Strategic Slowdown, is actually now turned into a retreat. So in Australia, I would love to see some internationals coming to join us for a really nurturing, warm Australian winter version of a retreat. Plus, there'll be online course in what I'm doing, the basics of what I'm doing with people in a month or so. So there's so much fun stuff coming. But again, for those people who are in the depths of that anxiety and depression, one step at a time, reach out. And, I'm happy to have a chat with people for, 45 minutes is a long time. It goes like that, though, to see how we can help them with a fresh new perspective.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. So everyone is going to have, or you already got the information for Tanya. So if you want to reach out to her, get the free consultation, sign up for her retreat. If you have a passport, you can go in person. Otherwise, everything else is on Zoom. But
yeah, and it's all on my website, which is really simple. My name, you can see my name down there. It's tanyadavies.com. Tanya with an I, tanyadavies.com, and all the information is there as well. But I would love for people to reach out to me on social media as well.
Beautiful. So tanyadavies.com. And thank you again. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with? Like any
absolutely.
Thoughts?
Let's just know that there are a lot of people out there that you can talk to, and there is always hope.
I love that. Yes, that was your first. That's how you started, and that's how you ended. I love it. It came full circle.
Loop it back.
There's always help. There's hope, and there's help. So
yeah,
please reach out. If you're listening to this, this message is for you. Reach out. Like she said, it may not be your mom, it may not be your best friend, but there's
usually isn't
somebody out there, and she is ready and willing to help you. So please don't just think, oh, this is it. Like you were saying, is this it? Is this all all it is?
And like I said, there's so many testimonials all over my website and social media. So this is I use evidence-based. I'm a member of the HeartMath Institute. I use their work. This is all very much evidence-based work that has proven results. My clients are out there surviving, living, and thriving.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. If you guys liked what you heard, make sure to reach out to her. If you missed her talk or anybody else's, make sure to purchase the recordings, and then you can listen to them, you know, time and time again. Every time you hear, you know, every time I listen to one of you guys, it's something resonates. I learned something new. I'm like, oh, I didn't hear that the last time I'm listening. It feels like I'm listening to it for the first time. So make sure you get your hands on that. And Ms. Tanya Davies, thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, and for your generosity. It was a pleasure to have you here.
You're
I
so
hope
very
to
welcome.
see you again real soon. And thanks to everyone out there watching. See you soon. Thank you.
Bye.